Yeah,
I
bro.
love that kind of like finger picking stuff. Just you about myself.
Yeah. What's your program? What's your name?
All right. My name is Mark Krzepis. I'm an illustrator. I go to OCAD University in the heart of Toronto. I'm not a spokesperson for OCAD. I'm just an illustrator, you know. I've been in school for 4 years now, but officially just 3 years because COVID has been a delay. It's been an interesting like trip, you know, going to an art school because like when I was in high school, I'm not gonna say what high school it was, but I didn't feel like my high school really harvested creativity the way that university does. I felt like I was very locked up in a box, and I just wasn't surrounding myself with people that would help me grow and help me progress my craft until I went to university, and then all of a sudden, just like boom, an explosion. You're meeting people who have been illustrating for decades, you know, people who've been working on art as a career for decades, for a long time. And that sort of wisdom you gain from that, it's super valuable as someone who's fresh on the block, right? I think it's really important to talk to the people in you know in school, even if you're not in school. Just talk to people who have been like in the business for a while, because that's like wisdom that like you won't be able to learn on your own unless you go through what they've gone through, right?
Yeah. You think like seeing that was kind of like your first glance at seeing that people can actually get a career out of this, like art
Yeah.
as a whole? Like before that, like when you were in high school or just like when you were a kid, like I don't know how long you've been creating for, but was going into university kind of like what allowed you to see that you could make something out of your art, so to speak, or it's something rather beyond
Yeah.
like a hobby? You could actually do this as like a living.
Um, I definitely knew beforehand that people were able to make a living out of making art. But going into university, I didn't realize the quantity of how many people there are actually and how big the art field is, you know? Because, like, um, I don't come from a very artful family, so, you know, you hear a lot about going into work in the trades, or or going into work like something like a lawyer or a doctor or whatever will like gain respect and money, right? Like illustrator seems like at the bottom of the barrel, um, but I always had like a hope that like you know this is something that's feasible and that's realistic, and like going to school has opened my mind to that. Like, oh hey, here are these people who are educating the next generation of artists, and these people themselves are making a living out of this, and like they know like 50 other people who are doing the same, and it just it's a lot more comforting. It definitely made me feel as if what I want to do is feasible, more so than going to high school where I felt like it's kind of like a lost cause.
Right.
But yeah, I do want to have a career in art. I can't pinpoint exactly what it is, but as long as I'm sitting in front of a desk with a paintbrush,
Just creating.
or just as long as I'm making something, that's all there is to it.
And
The
I'm like,
secret to a happy life.
I agree, man.
Yeah.
To speak about that, like how long have you been doing that, sitting on in front of a table creating, illustrating? How long has that passion been around? Like when probably just to you it's like your earliest memory might be illustrating, or just you
Yeah.
can't remember a time in your life where you never did it, but how far back does that go?
Well, I remember in kindergarten, um, for first day of school, like not knowing anybody, seeing like so many toddlers for the first time. Um, like we had to do a drawing assignment, or like just assignment. It's kindergarten,
Right.
but it's just like just a little drawing thing, or just drawing, free drawing, right? And I remember some other kids were saying like, "Wow, you're good at drawing," you know. And then it like sort of clicked, like, "Hey, maybe I am good at this," you know. And then it just sort of evolved since then, where I always felt a need to capture something through my own hand, you know. Um, for like a while, as a kid, it was very creative stuff, but then like later as I got older, I felt like my art was just sort of copying pictures with a pencil, and I sort of got in like this mindset that, oh, maybe good art is something that captures like reality well, but not even reality. What captures like a photo well, you know? Uh, just sort of making something that looks like a photo. And I got stuck in that bubble, and like that made me feel miserable for a while, because I didn't feel like I was doing anything creative up until I started university, and then I started meeting like so many interesting artists with so many different styles, because at the end of the day, an art style is something that every artist wants, right? You can't make a career for yourself without a style. Your style is yourself. Your style is what you market. And I didn't have that in high school. But going into university and meeting all these different artists with so many different styles, I met this one guy. He was an abstract expressionist, neo-expressionist. And his art was like, really, it was just like scribbles and like slap of paint. I know that this guy, I've seen a sketchbook, he could go as realistic as he wanted. You know, he could do very fine, detailed stuff. Um, he could render texture very nicely. He could do that, but he doesn't want to. He likes the loose stuff. He feels that's a true expression of himself. And that's what, he can fill up sketchbooks that way. And then that sort of flipped my mind on like what art is. You know, I thought like something that captures reality as accurately as possible is good art. Then all of a sudden it flipped to something that strays far away from reality is good art.
Right.
And then as I got older, like I sort of found myself in between those two worlds, where you find like a balance between like an abstraction and like have something grounded in reality. And yeah, I'd say I was I'd say I started taking illustration seriously around the time I started university, but I got in the mindset of wanting to pursue art as a career when I was in about 8th grade, going into high school. Yeah. What I think is good art shouldn't matter, you know? Because everybody's opinion of what good art is valid, right? Because art in itself is just the epitome of subjectivity. You could take like the most rigid, the most academic, like artist, like someone like, I don't know, let's say someone who paints like Bouguereau or something, or someone that like takes inspiration from like all the old masters who like spent their lifetimes like mapping out how to capture something accurately, how to make a dynamic composition, and like you know, create these amazing paintings of figures with like crazy lighting. You could take something like that, and like someone could easily say, "Oh, this is boring," you know. And then someone could look at a Mark Rothko, which is just like, you know, an interaction between two colors on a canvas, and like they'd be like, "Wow, this really captures what I'm feeling," and vice versa, right? And the thing is that both are valid. For me, with like my practice, what I find satisfies me is when I make art that sort of captures both, right? I want to show people that, you know, I have a skill with like rendering something realistically, but not amplifying that to the max. Sort of like finding the line where I can like sort of capture something that looks let's say accurate, or something that looks convincing, but also blended in with an abstraction. You know, I really like geometric stuff. I find it very tasteful and very interesting when I see something geometric. Um, I find myself satisfied with my art when I can look at something realistic and pull out the abstract from it, you know? Pull out the shapes, you know? When I can look at a form or like a pose and sort of find where lines line up, turn it into something that when you blink it's abstract, but when you look at it, it captures reality. Sort of just finding like a blend between both of those worlds, because like I love art of all types, and sort of being able to capture like the best of those satisfies me as an artist. And you know, I pick subject matter from what interests me, something I see, something I read, an idea that I hear, a conversation on the street, just whatever, you know? Like, as an artist, you can't just keep, like, you know, picking from the same basket, right? You gotta sort of diversify, right? As an artist, it's not a job. It's more of a lifestyle. And you're actively just consuming so much around you, right? That sometimes the best way to understand something is if it comes out of your own hand. Um, but yeah, you asked me how my younger self would feel about my art now. I feel like my younger self would thoroughly be surprised, you know, because like for a while, like an art style seemed impossible. It seems impossible to a lot of new artists who are starting out. But the thing that really helped me was just learning to experiment, you know. And I say learning to experiment because it is something that you have to learn. Because so many people get like stuck in this bubble that I'm good at doing this, so I'm only going to do this, right? And if that thing is like copying an image or like recreating something, then you're just going to be stuck like recreating stuff because you're scared to step out of that. And I was like that for a long time. And that was when I felt very that was when I felt very insecure about like myself as an artist. I didn't feel like I could make something of myself until I remember one day one of my instructors for one of my first classes in the university, he told me, well, I always used to work in pencil, and with pencil you can erase. And for this one exercise I was, you know, drawing something with a pencil, but like sort of erasing it, trying to make it look perfect, and then going over with the pen. This guy told me, why don't you try just going with the pen, you know? It's just a simple thing. Why don't you just draw with the pen, no pencil? And with the pen, you can't erase your mistakes. You have to, when you screw up, you're forced to look at your mistakes, and you have to sort of reflect on yourself and say, I screwed up, you know? And the more you can accept, I screwed up, the better, because then you think, how can I move forward from this? How can I turn this into something else? How do I learn from this mistake? If you keep erasing and try to convince yourself everything you do is perfect, you're not going to progress. And like just from years of just slapping paint and like, you know, doing every sort of medium until I figured out like, hey, I suck at this, I don't like this, but I like this and I love that, you know, that's when it all comes together. And I think my younger self would be very happy to see that like I've overcame those hurdles, but I'm still overcoming hurdles because your art, once you have an art style, it doesn't stick, you know. As a person, you change, right? I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago. Fuck, I wasn't the same person I was, you know, 3 days ago. You know, you're learning stuff. You're learning new stuff. You know, you get bored of old stuff, and I'm sure that 1 year from now, my art style will be different than what it is today, and that's something you just have to accept. So, just always be experimenting, always keep doing what you're doing. Don't get stuck in a bubble. You know, let yourself progress, and you will experience growth. Don't just get stuck doing one thing for the rest of your life. Right? Always try to do something new, something fresh, and like what feels fresh to you. And I'm sure you could ask me the same question like 5 years from now, and I'd still say the same thing. Like I wouldn't know what direction my art will go. And obviously, when I was a kid, I didn't know what direction my art would go. But I'm sure my younger self would say, like, hey, as long as you know the current me's happy doing what he's doing, you know. And I'd say I'm happy doing what I'm doing.
So you said this was untitled, right?
This is currently untitled. This is going to be a piece in my new art show. I still haven't like released the details yet, but this is going to be one of the pieces there. This whole art show is it has to do with the fire, my old home.
Oh. Oh, this is literally the house. I didn't even take that in. That's literally, yeah, I see it.
Yeah. So the whole art show, me and my neighbor, he's a sculptor. We were both affected by the fire, so we're doing an art show to sort of capture our experience. Like originally, this was an idea that was like conceived while we were still displaced as like a way to raise up some funds, but now we're turning it into just like a sort of statement about like what we've been through, and once this art show is done, like I'm ready to put that part of my life behind me. You know, it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, that sounds really dope, man.
My first like kind of independent exhibition.
Yeah.
I've done like another exhibition before, but I was just sort of like a small cog as a part of a collective. But this is just going to be me and another dude.
I rate that, yo, DIY, though.
Yeah.
And then there's real, like, passion behind it, you know? It's not just like, here's my art. Like, no, this is my life, literally.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
So I have multiple paintings that I already made. I can't share at the moment.
Right.
Regarding the fire and my experience. It just sort of felt like, as an artist, I needed to make these paintings. You know. Here's a tip for the viewers: don't do this with your brushes. These brushes have been sitting here in water for like weeks now.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
They're all bent like that, and a man can go broke from, you know, just having to buy new brushes every fucking time. Like I always love seeing artists' spaces. I think that's It's an interesting thing. Like one of my one of the best artists I ever met. I went to his house. His name is Tram Pinney, and his place is like it's a mess, but a beautiful mess. Like he has his art, like a giant paintings, like the size of this fucking wall, just up on the wall. His fucking brushes everywhere.
Yeah.
Like his whole home feels like just a factory to make his work. And this guy just lives and breathes art, you know. From the moment he wakes up, like his room, his bedroom, just covered in his own paintings, you know. It's like the moment you wake up and you just look at like the thing you're working on till the moment you go to sleep. It's the first thing you see in the morning, last thing you see at night.
Yeah.
It's just like, Jesus Christ, man. It's hardcore.
Is he from Toronto or no?
Yeah, he is from Toronto.
No.
He's a super cool guy, an amazing banjo player. So the funny thing is that the day it happened, I wasn't home.
Okay.
I was my friend was also making a video about my art. He goes to film school.
Okay.
And we were shooting some B-roll of like walking around downtown, and then that's when I got like a phone call from everybody, really.
Right.
Everybody was just calling me because they didn't know where the hell I was, and that's when I got the news like there's a fire, come home. And I came home. I didn't come home at the time that it was still smoking. By the time I was there was already firefighters and like fire trucks littered throughout the street. I came home just for the aftermath. And what this is based off of the experience of like other people,
right.
from like what my dad told me, from what my neighbor told me. So when it happened, my neighbor here was out for a smoke, and saw my father just sort of standing in shock and like smoke bellowing out of our balcony door. And while this was happening, there were like people like from the street just like kind of like gawking and just like sort of like in awe of what's going on.
Right.
That's sort of what it's not done yet, but it's a hand holding a cell phone. That's what that's supposed to symbolize. Because like one thing that really struck me when I finally came home and saw the aftermath of it was just like seeing all these people just like recording or just like looking, like watching.
Yeah.
And I used to be like that, you know, when some shit would happen, you know, you go look. It's hard not to do that, but like when you're on the opposite end of that, like you just sort of feel like you're seeing all these people who like they get to step into what your world is for a few moments, and then they get to go on with
Carry
the rest
on.
of the day.
Yeah.
You know, I don't, or I didn't, and other people who were affected by this didn't, and you know. I don't want to say I'm a hateful guy, but like in like a high like intensity situation, like you can't feel but just like a sort of like anger towards that. People can't help themselves, but you just sort of feel like it's not appropriate. But you feel helpless because there's nothing you can do to stop it. And that's sort of what this painting is. It's just like the thing that's happening, and then you know. The documentation.
Right. Yeah. It's exactly what it looks like. Especially having the phone right there.
It's just it's such an intrusive element of the painting.
And like how did it happen? If you don't mind explaining it, because I remember reading in your post.
Yeah.
Something about it was like the. Like with that, was it the electrical or yeah?
It's faulty wiring.
Faulty wiring.
So we've had old wires in our fuse boxes under the sink. And, you know, negligent landlord, you know, doesn't have any inspection or anything. Just, you know, people that only care when the rent money's coming in.
Yep.
And not for the safety of their own tenants. So our house is like a ticking time bomb, you know. something was eventually going to happen.
Mm.
Just by how old the house was, and like how things haven't been replaced for years. So eventually the wires gave out, and it happened in our unit, and a lot of people had to be evicted after that.
What even happened with your other neighbor? I'm guessing he moved out as well. Everybody else had to get out of
So
there.
I'm currently living with two, so my family and two other people who used to live in our old apartment.
Okay.
So we're all sort of supporting each other, you know,
Okay.
help ourselves get back on our feet.
Okay.
That's why this art show is going to be important,
Right.
just to sort of bring attention to the situation. Sort of let people know what's happening.
Regardless of like the situation, you guys were able to turn it into, like, I don't want to say event, but something where people could come in and learn what happened, and on top of that have art behind it to give people that.
It's always important to when something bad happens to just sort of think like, how can I turn this into something positive?
Yeah.
You know, how can I make like a net positive in the world, and something like an art show, you know, sort of turning my own experience into something that other people can learn from, you know. It's more about the sake of exhibiting the work.
Yeah.
For people to see, and like the more people that come, the better. The most important thing is being able to see art in person, because everybody looks at art on their cell phone, right? And when you look at art on your cell phone, you don't know if a painting is this small or if it's this big. It all looks the same, right? And like the size of something, and like the little, like just being able to like look up close, it just makes like a big difference for like how you appreciate or how you absorb like the artwork. So that's why I feel like it's important. It was important to make these paintings about like this big moment in my life. Make these paintings available for people to see in person.
Mm-hmm.
The classic way, right? That's what artists did. Nobody saw shit until like they physically went to see it.
Yeah.
And it's like going to like a concert, you know?
Yeah. No. Exactly.
Or like it's like when a musician releases an album, you know? That's the same thing as like an art show. You're seeing a collection of work that captures like what the person was like thinking of at the time.
No, yeah, I agree. I think they all kind of go into the same, like how you're, at least how you're perceiving it internally. I think it's all very relatively the same. To see that art in person, it's all kind of the same, whether it's like paintings or anything. I mean, unless people just don't fuck with that type of art, but I always felt the same way, and especially if it's more like local based stuff. Like I'd rather go to events that I don't even know who the fuck that event is by, or who's hosting it, or who are these artists, rather than like going to an event that like I know what's happening and like these are the artists I'm going for. I think it's, for me personally, I've like going to like local events in Toronto where it's like I'm meeting people there that I've never met before is much more influential, and you could take a lot more from it rather than going to like a big event that you're paying like $100 to get into, or $50, whatever the case is. Like same thing with concerts. That's why I'm relating into that as well, because with concerts I've gone to like mainstream concerts where it's like artists that are like on the radio, and then I've gone to concerts where it's like 30 people in the crowd, and the ones where it's like 30 people in the crowd are always like way better. You take a lot more from them, and they just feel.
It's a lot more intimate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. If I could recommend anything for any creative is just go to the AGO as much as possible.
Oh yeah?
It's fucking free, dude.
Really?
It's free. If
I
you're
didn't know this.
if you're under 25, it's fucking free. You just download like a pass. It's an annual pass. You just say you're 25. You do this online, yeah, and then you can download a pass for free. You just go in, scan it. It's
I didn't know this.
you just walk in for free, dude.
You see me at
And you
AGO.
can see everything.
Hey, what are you doing? Hey, I'm just at AGO.
They're always putting like a new shit up. So
I did not know that, man.
yeah, I remember I went to like a film screening at this small theater in this guy's living room. It's an interesting experience. Because like I feel like regardless of where I end up, I'll always be painting or making art in my life. Right?
Yeah, I feel the same way.
I don't feel like it's something that I have to force myself to do.
Because it's you.
Yeah. Like I'm not saying like don't strive to be better, but like strive to be better in something that actually matters
I get what you're saying.
to you. So that's something that stuck with me.
I'm thinking since you're gonna do like a whole art exhibition with this, I'll just save the clips and when I make it out there, I'll get some footage there as well, and then put everything all together so it's like you see the kind of not beginning to end, but you know, like you see what happened with this painting and what the whole reasoning behind it was. That way I could also meet the sculptor. I think that'd be dope.
So my art show is just a month from now.
Yeah.
October 7.
Okay.
So you can wait until then.
Yeah.
That'd be good. Yeah.
For sure.
So how many of these do you have planned? Like with other artists?
Dude, I don't have any actually like fully planned. I just plan to do them. I did the one with the other dude. It was only after filming that I was like, wait, I could turn these into a mini series called Meet the Artist type of thing.
Yeah.
But there's no limit really. It's just I'll just rank them by episode 1. I'm thinking of literally having hundreds. So it's just if there's time for me to do them, if there's artists that are down to do it and willing to be on camera, or cause for example the last guy, he didn't really want to be on camera, especially because what he's doing was kind of like vandalizing. So I don't blame him. But he was super down still to create the video and he loved it. But definitely just like as long as there's artists that are down and are okay with being on camera, then I want to do it, and I want to actually do it with artists that I've never met. That's what, hence Meet the Artist. So it would actually be like my first time as well meeting them. But yeah, just I don't have any plan really. Just film the video. Even like right now, there's not necessarily a plan. It's just we're here speaking, talking, and getting footage. And you tell me what you're doing with this, and okay, now I decide I'm gonna come out to the showcase. That would also be dope to get footage of.
There's something beautiful about like doing stuff like stream of consciousness.
Yeah, I agree.
That feels like real, like a conversation, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like nowadays, like people are so starved of like genuine conversation. That's why people like listening to like podcasts. And
I agree. Yeah.
Like everybody says, like everybody has like a short attention span these days. Like
no wonder
everyone's attention's so short. But like, how is it that people like nowadays they listen to like 4-hour-long podcasts?
But it's because they don't have that in their day to day, right? Like so it's like people say that they don't have that attention span. It's like no wonder, because in their day to day they lack those qualities that allow them to do that. But then you give them that circumstance where they're able to do that, whether it's like through a podcast or whatever it may be, and they could actually do those things, right?
Yeah.
But it's through the everyday, through the mindless scrolling or just like shitty 9-to-5 job that has nothing to do with what you want to do. It's easy to just be like on the go, like you're not gonna focus on anything because it's redundant or whatever the point is, right? But when you have that time to like fully, especially because with a podcast you're just like a listener, you're not really interacting with it, you're just witnessing it. I feel like it's easier for people to tune in more and be less like indiscriminate about it, and just literally like take it all in for whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah,
it's good to have conversations. That's what That's what makes human beings human beings.
Yeah.
That's why we Homo sapiens, outlived the fucking Neanderthals and Denisovans
It was
because
crazy. I didn't even know
yeah,
that they existed like 40,000 years ago. I thought it was like millions, dude. Like,
yeah,
I didn't know that the Neanderthals was only like 40,000 years ago. Like, what?
yeah.
And that
We
they're out here like
yeah,
crossbreeding and just like actually
exactly.
interacting with each other.
Yeah.
That's madness.
The reason we stuck around for longer is because of our ability to communicate,
Yeah.
our ability to work together and like talk to each other and come up with like abstract ideas. Uh,
You ever like start thinking like super philosophically on like our ancestors and shit and just be here like really trying to take it in like damn you were the byproduct of all of these things put together, you know, like you've never met them but without them you wouldn't be existing. And the
yeah,
fact that like I know it's trippy as fuck for me that like we made it from the fucking caveman to here, dog. Like to
yeah,
me
yeah,
it
yeah.
fucking blows my mind. And then it gets me thinking about like did all of these beings, because that's essentially what they are, did they have like did we share this kind of like, because yes we're here, we're alive, life is life, but like as their everyday like the things they felt, their perceptions, like do you think they were all mad different because they were in a completely different like point in time, or you think like they still had all those what we call human qualities, which is like
Yeah.
love and all these things, like do you still think it was embedded in them but they just weren't able to like express them or decipher them because they were all more like
Yeah.
animalistic? Or do you think we developed those things through like culture and the civilization? Because obviously cavemen wasn't really
Yeah.
civilization.
I think the more intelligent you get, like I think you cross like a threshold, you know.
Mm.
Like we're still animals, right? But we're
Yep.
like a unique kind of animal.
Yeah.
Humans are the only animals that have like crossed that threshold where they can start to think like morally. All of that stuff is just to sort of like tell future generations that like, hey, we were here. You know, we did this. Don't forget about us. And like every human being feels that need, you know? Every human being feels a need to say that. Uh, and I'd say it all comes from a fear of death, you know?
Yeah.
Right? And that's why everybody wants to like leave their little like mark,
Yeah.
you know?
No pun intended, Mark.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, everybody wants to leave their little like stamp there, like hey, I existed, you know, and at some point in time I was here. That's the basis behind a lot of my creations, especially my
Yeah.
music. I always think like I get this weird like it's the opposite of nostalgia. You know, nostalgia is when you're looking back at the past. For me, it's like the opposite. I get the feeling of nostalgia, but in a future kind of standpoint, where I'm
Yeah.
thinking about like my future self and looking back at me now, and then I'm just like, or me dead, and then people looking back at my art now, and I'm like, damn, you know, like at some point in time,
Yeah.
this thing and me will just be a point in time. You know, it's not.
Yeah.
I'm not eternal, and we go by when we don't realize that we think we are eternal. We think we're never gonna die, or like bad things are never gonna happen to us, or whatever the point is. Like we forget to take in that we actually are gonna fucking die. And
Yeah. So each complementary colors, they kind of work to dull each other out, you know? So if I take blue, let me clean my brush a bit. If I take a blue, right? It's a very vibrant blue. Its opposite is orange on a color wheel.
right.
So if I mix an orange in with this blue, eventually you're going to get a gray. You're going to get like a nice gray from that.
Yeah.
Which is going to be a lot better than mixing like black and white, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's like a solidified gray.
yeah, it's a gray with a little bit of oomph to it. Another important thing I learned about color is that don't be afraid to paint what you see. Because what you see is more valuable than painting what you know. In terms of like doing something realistically. or like trying to make something feel convincing. Like you pick out the mistakes by you know, getting a different perspective.
Let's fucking get it.
You guys are still open.
Hello. My guy. The fuck is going on, bro?
I was just randomly playing songs.
What's up, dude? Oh man.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I got the exhibition statement right there. It's curated preview chronological order.
Oh, beautiful. Yo, this one turned out really nice, bro. The one you were working on when I saw you?
Yeah. I can't wait to see the video.
Because I was at his house when he started painting. So, is this vinyl? Like a vinyl that burnt?
Yeah.
It melted.
It melted. I had those up on the wall, and just melted from the smoke, not even fire.
Damn.
You can also see it even melted a light bulb there.
Oh shit.
No, actually, this was done with a stencil and a sponge.
Damn, like you smudged it on top?
No, I had like a little sponge, and I just like dabbed the paint on. And actually, like it created like a really cool texture.
Damn, that's sick.
Yeah, I've done this. I use the same technique to print these.
Oh, so weird.
But I've never done them on T-shirts before. But this is a screen print ink. It's a fun way to
That's
make
neat,
a
yeah,
shirt.
I never knew
You
that.
have the stencil for your collective conscious, right?
Yeah.
You could try like to use a sponge.
Yeah, you mind if I take a picture of you? Is that cool?
Me?
Yeah?
Yeah, sure.
Here, watch out, Mike. My bad.
Try it. Are you serious?
Ready to do it as you wish, bro. Wow.
There you go. Nice, man.
Thank you, bro. We'll wait now.
When you start getting into those?
Oh, these are just like Walmart disposable cameras, but
Yeah.
I seen they had it, and I was like, oh, it's like real film.
Yeah.
And then the lady there told me it's like their disposables, like the single-use ones. So I was like, oh, okay. So I just tried it, but I have yet to work with like a real film camera.
Yeah.
Of like your whole face.
Before high school, I started to like work on my skills. Well, I took it really serious when I started university. Like, that's like nice, like Yeah, I like that
Fuck
kind of
yeah.
stuff, man, because it's like that music has existed for
Yeah.
so long, and the thing with folk music is that like it travels around, you know, like people learn it just by like hearing someone else play it, and it's like it's beautiful, right?
It is
Just to keep the
beautiful. It is.
tradition
Yeah,
alive,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
Yeah, I also play like that, kind of like that.
For the ladies.
Yeah, sort of Brazilian style.
That's fire, bro.